Everyone, and welcome to Nadex Morning Analysis. My name is Todd Rich. I'm from Nadex, broadcasting to you live from the tundra known as Chicago. Man, is it cold here. We're down in the single digits, low single digits. With me, as usual, my good friend Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. Brian and I are going to talk about some hot spots in the markets today, where you might want to find some action. But before I do that, let me run through this quick disclaimer because these morning sessions are sponsored by our compliance department. Trading does involve risk, may not be appropriate for everyone. That any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. So, what are we going to talk about today? I'm actually going to kick us off, and you know what? Let me share a different screen. But I'm actually going to talk about oil for a little bit, uh, because we're seeing some interesting price action in oil. It is sort of the talk of the markets right now. It's the one thing that's definitely, well, actually, we got a couple of things moving. Let me jump over here and do this. So what I mean, we can see the oil actually. This is the Nadex platform. I'm currently looking at the knockout contracts, but we're seeing oil. You could see the oil ran up in the evening sessions, just started to pull back a little bit as people came online. So it's in the last hour, it sold off just a little bit. But why are we seeing this spike in oil? I mean, oil up at nearly $61 a barrel. What's going on? And I mentioned the tundra here in Chicago. We're all probably acutely aware that the U.S. is having a major storm. I mean, this is really disruptive. It's cold out there, and particularly in the South and the Southwest. If you haven't caught the news, Texas is really struggling. And what that does is it's impacting the ability for the U.S. to produce oil. So oil is definitely one of those supply and demand products where there's a disruption in either the supply or demand. You know, when demand starts going, the price goes up. If demand stops, you would generally see the price go down. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Demand for oil isn't taking off. Future demand may come, and that's why you see some price in oil as people see hope from maybe the pandemic eventually waning, particularly as we get through this third phase. But what's really impacting it is this double whammy of the supply. The U.S. actually gets most of its oil from this country called the U.S. We are our own largest producer. We're an exporter of oil. So when our oil production gets disrupted, it's for us, it's definitely more impactful than what's going on when OPEC starts talking. So we're seeing that in oil. It is definitely weather driven. Eventually that may pass, but there's going to be a backlog. They're not able to produce oil, and we're seeing it. And there's some entertaining stories. I know Brian could probably share a couple. But you know, the electricity grid, what it costs now for electricity in Texas is going completely haywire, to the tune where I think it used to cost $25 a megawatt, and so to charge your Tesla was 15-20 bucks. Right now you can't even charge it, or if you wanted to, it could cost thousands of dollars. As kooky as that is, because there's just such a demand for energy, and so any place that people can find it right now, the spot market's again going a little crazy. In oil, if you were looking to play this from looking for a bounce, I mean, it just keeps creeping to all-time highs. There are some knockouts in here where you could potentially take a Delta One play. I guess we'll wait and see what happens when the U.S. equities markets open and the retail traders get in there in a bit. But just know, I mean, we're continuing to see oil push higher, and it's definitely its supply has been disrupted. So you'll see that play out in these markets as well. Brian, you got anything else you wanted to talk about with oil, or
Yeah,
I know
I mean,
you got some funny stories about
I was
energy
going to say,
too.
funny story first. I was going to put my joke in there, but you went into the disclaimer. I was like, I see what you did there. You said it's a tanja, but we're going to cover hotspots today, and then we do. I mean, there's many puns, and I'm not a pun guy, but I know some people. Yeah, I mean, one interesting thing. I mean, obviously, I mean, the crude oil story. Yeah, that's why we've seen kind of a rally up in things. Some of the economic forecasts have been great. Looking, and again, I do like the sentiment aspect of things. I'm going to drag daily effects in real quick. One of the things you can see at crude is, we have actually 56% of people are net short at this point. So again, it's kind of one of those things that whether, we see things like hurricanes, anything that affects the Gulf, all those are big issues. Obviously huge ice storms, but hurricanes on the East Coast. I mean, there's obviously natural disasters that affect these things. Typically, the best way to play them is to position yourself before they affect the markets. Now that they're after, you're starting to see some type of a turn. As you said, I mean, this snow, this ice is not going to last forever. I have family members that live in Austin, and they're dealing with power outages and things like that, and I joked about it. But those are not going to be long-term things. And yes, supply is disrupted, but at the same time, my sister hasn't left her house in 5 days. They're not using their cars. I mean, they don't have, with no power, they don't necessarily have the heat that they would like, but they're also not consuming at the same rate as they were before. Now, again, I'm just going to out there right now. If you're in Prius, I don't see you out there driving in ice and snow and things like that. Cars are not designed for that one. So it may cost $900 to fill your Tesla back up again with energy, but you're most likely not using it right now anyway. So, there is that aspect. So, looking at oil, you can see in the overnight, I mean, obviously right now in the last half, oil is dropping. It's dropped, what, $1? Almost $1 in the last hour and a half. Actually, more than that. It was up at 61.20, and now we're down at as low as 60.40. So, it's almost $1 in the last hour and a half. And the big question would be why? And that's because some of the information that just with retail sales. So it's amazing how the markets are completely linked. Let me go over to the dollar index. Yes, the index is literally a rocket ship right now. We are just kind of getting higher. Let me bring this up to an hourly chart so you guys can see it. As you guys know, the dollar is different commodities. Oil being one of them. Gold being another one of them. Gold is also having a little bit of an issue right now, down 1%. And again, most of that is because of this. So
retail sales.
Yeah, retail sales. Why oil is surging. Again, here's your oil chart. Again, you're seeing it spike up. It did actually take a bounce off of that level that we talked about, right around that 59.50-ish level. And it's a level we've hit a few times. So, again, what do we do with this? I marked these things off yesterday. If we had a break of the 59.40, we had a base and a pullback. This is that Harry Potter trade that we talk about all the time, looking for targets down here at $58.50, $58. Again, good weather forecast. This is, again, I think this is a decent short today because, again, everybody knows how bad it is. Everybody knows how expensive it is. Every day we advance forward, that weather pattern and things are looking better. I know yesterday it was a high of 49 in Maryland. Today it's cold again. Tomorrow it's going to get warm and it's going to, be rain for us again. So, weather does shift back and forth. It doesn't stay forever. There's this thing called the jet stream where it does, except if you live in Chicago, and then that's your own, that's your own fault after. But Texas is not Chicago. So again, a lot of this is, we're talking about is Texas.
Yeah.
Until the Gulf freezes over, I think we're okay. The entire Gulf of Mexico, then we could have problems, but we're not quite at that stage yet. But let me go back and go over the retail sales numbers.
Yeah, and I think gold would be a great thing to discuss today too, because it's breaking out of some levels.
Yeah, so retail sales numbers today. I don't have any insider information on this one, but I've never seen a miss this large of retail sales ever before. So I kind of feel like they're slicing and dicing things to make it look better than it actually is. I would say this has probably a high probability of being adjusted next month. Looking in the past, you can see that we're off by 0.5%, maybe 1 percentage point. Here, this, 0.4 to 1.5, that was big, right? Having a past of 1.1 and coming in at 5.9, that's an outliner. If you guys know anything about bell curves, that is an outliner. That is absolutely why we're seeing such dollar strength right now. And what is dollar strength doing? It's bringing oil down. It's bringing gold down. You're seeing all the currencies kind of in a hurry right now. You're seeing, again, pound numbers today, you're seeing it down 40, the euro dollar down 75, dollar yen is up 44, dollar Swiss 41 on the dollar CAD. and then Aussie dollar is down 26. So, and you can see the pound yen is only up 19. You know, euro pound down 30. So the dollar is forcing its will upon people. Now, is that going to last all morning? No. No, I mean it's a great number to be out there, and it definitely is like it's a positive. But again, we got to start looking for retraces. And again, could we have a retracement in oil? Yeah, we could. I mean, you're obviously seeing the retracement from the overnight coming down. I mean, it's collapsing now. It's down what, $1.20 in an hour and a half. Gold, same thing. Gold yesterday we talked about a level down here, right? We mentioned that we had a level, and I believe we did it here. Yeah, you can see this is where we had a couple different tests in. Again, 1800 level is one that I wanted to mark off. That's the dotted line here, right? Well, look what it did. It came down, it smashed in, it came back up, and look, tested it one more time in that 1800, just to fake people out. The 1800 is an important number. And again, we came down, we based sideways, and then dropped. And there was actually an entry about an hour. Retail sales number came out, and again, people say, what does retail sales have to do with gold? Obviously, it's not necessarily gold. It is a dollar-based trade. And again, we came down, we tagged this line, we came in again, came back to a level of basing that had provided sellers, and boom, straight to the downside. And I think right now it's at a 6-to-1 risk to reward ratio trade. Now, the message I gave you guys early in the week was how to find the best trading opportunities. Well, you guys can go up in here. You can go grab it right from here. It tells you exactly when it's going to be. And again, retail sales is one of the big ones that again, you always want to watch out for, whether it be the United States or us. And again, tonight, I told you guys earlier in the week, Australian dollar unemployment data should be a nice little bouncer as well.
That's actually, you know what? I was going to bring up the gold and show gold, but you know what? I think you've covered it pretty well, and right, and it broke down, and you know, at some point we'll see as the retail traders come in and people digest this. But this retail sales number is out of control. Let's actually do.
It's a huge number.
You know what? Let's just do this. One last quick thing. You mentioned the. Let's just do a quick look at the Aussie dollar or the Aussie yen or something in anticipation of that number coming out tonight. Let's just take a look at what we're looking at, and let's just do a little bit of homework on what people might be able to see with that number coming out this evening.
Yeah, and remember, Nadex has two different products you can use for this one. Not products, but again, two different currency pairs. The Aussie dollar as well. The Aussie yen is one of the other ones. So typically for Australian releases, I like using the Aussie yen. It tends to be more of the weaker pair for things. But right now, on an hourly basis, you can see the price is driven back 727. It's a level that we've talked about in the past. Last time we were here, we had a nice little drop base and then explosion out of it with the U.S. retail trader stepping in 16 minutes. This is one of those times where we could have a potential reverse. Let's see if we're going to hold, though. That's the biggest problem is, are they going to jump in and continue to drive it down a bit farther to suck more people in? Answer is maybe, maybe not. We do have actually a position down here at 76.95 that we're looking for a break and a push lower. For retail sales, for the unemployment number tonight, the way that we got to handle this, we got to kind of see where we are before news. All right, we know that we have a gap sitting right over in this area right here, right? We had this little kind of funky gap and a nice push off, and that's what we were looking for a break. But I will say, if price does push down into this level sitting here, this could also be another area for a reversal for the day, right? And again, that would mean that we have positive Australian news, right? This is what it would look like. This downward push right now, we push in level. Let me bring this across. Right there is the gap. And again, right before news comes out, you look for a position a little bit higher. And again, I don't have the Nadex contracts now because it is 7:30 p.m. tonight. Nadex obviously closes down and reprints its everything at 6 p.m.
Actually, here, I'm going to flip this over because we do have...
Well, knockouts work.
We've got our binaries that would be 3 a.m. New York time,
11 p.m.
or the 11 p.m. ones.
You can use the 11 p.m. ones.
Right. So that's what I really wanted to kind of show. Well, this is the euro yen. How about if I scroll up to what we were actually talking about, which is the There's the Aussie yen and then the Aussie dollar. And in these knockouts, we do have these 11 p.m. or the 3 a.m. ones where you can look for a setup. Again, Brian's kind of giving you an idea.
It's not the knockouts. binaries.
Oh, I say binary.
You said knockouts.
Guy, you said knockouts. You got it in my brain. In the binary.
Well, there is a really good knockout, so you have to go look at the knockouts.
All right.
I'm just going to say it.
All right. So, well, we're going to first, I'm going to show it just with the binary options, right? That's one way to play it. You're looking for your setups, and there's going to be a variety of binary options for you to choose from. So you could get ready for that and take a look. That's why we have these binary options that, every 4 hours there's one. You mentioned knockouts. Let's just take a look at because these are weekly contracts. So Aussie US dollar, if none of these get knocked out, there still will be a Delta 1 play. Let's shrink these in. You can see where the boundaries are. So, if it doesn't touch any of these boundaries, these contracts will still be in this evening for you to
go to an hourly.
What's that?
Go to an hourly chart. If you go to an hourly chart, you'll see the kind of little funky gap that I'm talking about.
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see it. It's approximately around, it starts around 77 on to 76.90-ish in that level. You'll see it there.
Right. Which is here. Let's just draw this on here. I'm just gonna so people can see it with the rectangle. Right. Yeah, it's right here because this is the gap that you're talking about. It kind of was a level here, but here's that gap up that pushed higher.
Yeah, it's a little bit of it's a very funky pattern, and then obviously right below it is a bit of a racetrack. So we're typically looking for that to we're looking for it to push. Ultimately, if it breaks that, can push lower. But like I said, because we've had such positive, strong U.S. data today, typically we see reversals of that at some point. It could reverse now. If it does not, if it continues to push lower or before the Australian night, which I do think will be positive for the Australian dollar, that could be where the rollover point is, and there's a floor at 76.82 for a knockout, which is just below that level. So,
which is, yeah, okay.
Oop. It's a little bit higher. Yeah, I think it's that one. Yeah.
So. All right, so there's something else to look at. You know what? I'm going to flip it back over to you. I want to wrap up. We went a little bit longer because we did a little spiel on oil in the U.S. Is there any one last thing quickly you want to share with folks? I love that we're teeing them up for the Aussie dollar tonight. That's that event trading that we always talk about. Any last things you want to point out before we call it a day today?
Probably not. Last thing I'm going to leave it with is, again, see what that opening turn. See what the opening kind of push does. There's going to be a retail trader push at the open. Remember that 10 o'clock and 10:30, they're two most common reversal times. So if you look at the indices this morning, drop down to your 15-minute charts, see what the initial kind of first 10, 15-minute push is, and look to see if you're running any 30-minute levels for a reverse morning. Because again, there's a lot of questions. Retail sales is amazing, but yet we're approving 1.9 stimulus. So again,
and what's interesting is in the equities markets, they're all looking slightly off right now, which is rather interesting. Just a little bit.
Yeah. And the question is it positioning for a push higher today because retail sales was so good? And again, remember, this is not a bubble. This is not inflation, is what we Fed say. So these are all positive for the stock market.
You would think so. Okay. With that, got any questions for Nadex? Please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Got any questions for Brian? He is very accessible. support@keeptradingsimple.com. We did go a little longer today. We will be back tomorrow morning to do some analysis. Remember, be sure to keep an eye, if you want to, this evening on what's going on in Australia with their economic numbers. With that, we will catch you tomorrow morning, and want to wish you all good luck in the markets. Thanks, everyone.